Testing for sound check. Testing. Give me some feedback. Thank you. Testing for sound check. Testing. Give me some feedback. Thank you. Okay, I think we're live, and Joey, Ben, happy Friday to you too, and Happy New Year to everybody. And hello, Dr. A. Reginald Littman, and Craig, sound is low. I think we're live. Okay, so Joey, Ben, happy Friday to you too. I will crank up the sound just a little bit, and don't want to overwhelm things, so let me know how that is. Seems to be pretty good. So I haven't been on for a while, and I hope you can understand in retail and the holiday season, it's very hard to get off the floor or to square away uninterrupted time, and that's certainly been the case. So grabbed a few minutes today to come on and say hi to everybody. So thanks for stopping by after a big break. So we've been asked by a number of people who've watched the channel to do some work on Bremont watches, and I'm happy to do that today. And I also have some follow-up of what's been coming into the store in the past couple of weeks that we haven't shown, and so we'll reserve some time to talk about those as well. So let's begin with that. So Bremont Watches is a company based in Henley, England, and it's been around since inception of their R&D capability and whatever, around the year 2000. All these will be approximate, plus or minus a year or so. And their first watch was released in about 2005, and the founders are in the photo I'm showing, Nick and Giles English, Nick on the right, Giles on the left, two brothers who were brought up in an aviation family and were doing other things, and based on some life crises, their father being killed in an air accident that Nick was in as well in the 90s. They reevaluated their lives and decided to join forces and start a watch company which would honor their background in aviation, their interest in mechanical things, and the rest is history. So, Craig, they are cool bomber jackets. These guys know how to dress the role. So they started the company, and it's been remarkably successful, both in the UK and here in the US. And we've been a dealer, I'd say, since about 2012, and had good success with the brand. We have an in-shop boutique that features it. Very nice. Don't have a picture handy, but those of you who have been to the store are well aware of what I'm talking about. So pretty neat, and we are very happy with the folks. So having a little camera outage, just bought some new camera stuff, and of course it's going to give me a little bit of heartbreak along the way, it looks like. So I'm going to show you a piece from the collection, and the first piece is the Alt 1C blue. It's a blue dial, and the Alt 1C collection is features this bicompax chronograph setup. They're very beautiful. I wear a black dialed version, an earlier version of this with Arabic numerals as my daily wear, and I'll show you a shot of that. Very pretty as well, and I actually prefer the older version that I have. And okay, and I'm looking to see NV Scotsman here, Blue Shirt Buddha. Okay, folks coming aboard, and now do we call Steve Chip too? Probably not. There's only one chip in the world, and that would be the Craigster. So, okay, so that's the Alt 1C, and very classic style, and they have exhibition backs, as you can see, and very nicely styled rotor. And principal thing to notice about Bremonts is their characteristic case with their downturned lugs, and typically a three-part case. And the top portion incorporating the lugs, a middle barrel, which may be of different materials, and of course the case back. So this is classic Bremont. Every one of their watches is a certified chronometer, and they, including their little ladies' watches as well. And so very accurate, well put together timepieces. So now I'm going to show you another piece. This one is the MB2, which I notoriously blanked on in my last show. It is the best-selling, or has traditionally been the best-selling piece in the collection. And you can see the little yellow counterweight on the second hand, and that represents a pull cord in a Martin Baker seat, which is the ejection seat that is in a very high portion of the world's jet fighters. The Martin Baker Company is relatively nearby the Bremont factories in Henley, and it is not. They are not located in Henley, but nearby the Henley headquarters. And they have a partnership, and these watches are designed to withstand ejection from a ejection seat in a fighter plane, and they are actually tested as such. And after some experimentation, they successfully designed a watch with internal shock absorbers, rubber shock absorbers around the movement, and other features making it able to withstand that kind of stress. And it's the real thing. I've been to the Martin Baker factory, met Mr. Martin, and I've seen the pieces he's used to test. And one of the watches has withstood 12 tests, ejections, and still works works well and keeps time. So, okay. So this watch incorporates an internal rotating bezel, and it is excellently done. Reportedly the best in the business. The mechanism is mounted on ball bearings, and they all click smartly into place right on the minute markers perfectly, and it's a very nice feature incorporated in that. So comes with different color barrel alternatives, and you can get black, you can get British Racing green, there are variants with blue, and there is a model with a red barrel and that's reserved for people who have survived ejection in a Martin Baker ejection seat. And we actually have 2 customers who have been awarded or have achieved the red barrel version. And I have a 3rd customer, unfortunately, who was ejected twice and was not able to get the red barrel because it was not in a Martin Baker seat. So interesting thing. So, okay. So this watch has another piece has been added to the collection, and this is the MB3. This is a limited edition of 310 pieces with a white dial, and it's a GMT as well, and very pretty. And you can see on the back of this piece an ejection seat, and this is number 309 of 310, so we almost made it to the 310, but a decent number after all. So if you look at the barrel on this, it is titanium, and the other barrels on the MB2s and MB1 are made of anodized aluminum. So this gives us a nice touch. And I also want to add that the steel used in the Bremont watches is super hardened. It is finished in the Rolls-Royce turbine factory, heat treated, and it is claimed by Bremont to be 5 times harder than Rolex steel. And indeed, the watch that I've had for over 5 years now has almost no marks on it whatsoever, and it's been a daily wear. I get in and out of showcases. I brush door jambs frequently in the rush, and it is indeed a very rugged timepiece. So just catching up on who's here. Brit Fit Dance is here. Hi, how are you? And Joel Kaminsky joins us, the Rolex man. And Craig announces Brianna is now a member of the Wrench Gang. So don't cross Brianna, or you may be wrenched. So, okay. So let's move on, unless there are any questions. And Craig gives a reference to our website, littletreasury.com. Invite you to stop by there. So now we're going to move on to another style watch from Bremont. And they make a very nice pilot style watch here. This is the Airco Mach 1. The prior pieces I've shown you are 43 millimeters, and this one is 40. So there's a series of pieces in the smaller size, more wearable for people with smaller wrists, and as you can see, very legible, nice piece. So I haven't talked about price about these watches, and I'll sort of catch you up on that. The Alt 1C that I showed you in the beginning was $64.95. The MB2, $49.95. The MB3 with a GMT, $55.95. And then the Airco Mach 1 is $38.95. So fairly affordable. And in fact, Bremont has been introducing watches in the sub $4,000 range over the past several years, and is effectively lowering their entry price point. So, okay, so just to show you the back of this Airco Mach 2, and I might remark also on the straps on the Bremonts. So they have a very comprehensive collection of leather and rubber and Kevlar straps, bracelets for almost all the models except the gold ones. and we have a kit in the store with maybe 30 different styles that people can choose from. They're basically either 22 or 20 millimeter lug width. And it's one thing we like very much about the company, that they provide long, medium, short, this wide variety of straps, a beautiful deployant clasp that works very well. I'll show you one on a little bit scratched up, but on my piece, my personal watch. And so in that sense, in terms of with accessories and choices of strap, bracelet, I call it a complete company. They're also complete in the sense that they have excellent packaging. The watches come in leather, English leather folders for the most part, or in the case of the dive watches, in very nice leather rolls. Everything about their materials, their packaging, their handling has always been first class, and we're pretty pleased with the company in that respect. Also, I think their advertising has been excellent. They've done a lot of programs with partners, such as with Jaguar, Boeing. They've been America's Cup sponsors. So very active in connecting with other companies and brands in fairly quite creative ways. So for a company of its age, relative youth, I think it's pretty outstanding. So, and I'm looking at NV Scotsman. Does Rolex gauge the price? I'm not sure what that means. You might want to elaborate on that. So, okay. So moving forward, let's look at another piece in the collection. And this is a new model for this year, a new colorway. And this is the Supermarine S2000. It's rated at 2,000 meters depth, water resistance, and it is about 45 millimeters and is correspondingly thick. This is 18.2 millimeters thick, so it is a big boy. And for people who like a big watch and something that's supremely rugged, I would say this would be it. And comes on a very nice rubber strap with a pin buckle. And on the case back, you can see the nicely worked propeller, ship's propeller, worked into the back of the dial, back of the case, excuse me. And a little different setup on the crown and the crown guard. And I've just lost the camera briefly. This is something I'm struggling with my new camera setup. They seem to want to shut themselves down. We're back in action. Okay, there we are. Okay. All right, so moving forward this year, I have one more I want to show you out of the regular collection. So they've introduced a British military collection in the past year. And this piece is the Bremont Broadsword, and it comes in at 34.45. It's a 40 millimeter by 12.7 millimeters thick, excuse me. And you can see that the case is a departure from the three-part case structure This is very nicely grooved on the case side. And it has British insignias on the back, signifying that it's approved by the British, Her Majesty's Armed Forces, rather. And so there are several watches in this series of this nature. And very pretty, very simple, as you can see. And a nice cloth strap on it with leather lining at a pretty reasonable price, in my opinion. Okay, so now we move on to the star of the Bremont show, in any case. And this is this year's limited edition. And it is a GMT, and it is called the H4 Hercules. And it commemorates the Howard Hughes's project, the Spruce Goose, the largest airplane ever built, purportedly, that was built back in the 40s, that was going to be a military transport ship, and then the war ended and the purpose for having the plane essentially disappeared. So I think it flew once for a short distance, but it is still in existence. I've forgotten exactly where it is, but it's on in a air museum, and it can be seen. So this is typical of Bremont, picking a plane or some other event or capability to celebrate in one of its watches. And this is a fitting piece to celebrate the Spruce Goose. And as you can see, it has a day-night indicator in the flange there. And it has, again, one of the touches of Bremont in their limited editions. It has a propeller that has wood inlaid from part of the structure of the original Spruce Goose. So this is the typical thing they do. So over the years, they've done watches celebrating the HMS Victory with wood from the deck of the ship. They've done a watch, the Supersonic, which celebrates the Concorde, that incorporates materials from the Concorde. The Wright Flyer, which I can call up a picture or two somewhere to show you. And the Wright Flyer incorporated some material from the wing, from the muslin wing material of the first flight. And so this was a piece that they had gotten about a square foot of muslin from the Wright Brothers Foundation, incorporated it into the rotor, and part of the proceeds from the watch went to the Wright Brothers Foundation. So it's the kind of thing that they do, this partnering with historical foundations and whatever. And another notable piece that they did was the Code Breaker limited edition that commemorated the decoding of the Enigma machine at Bletchley Park, and it incorporated a piece of an Enigma machine in the rotor of that watch as well, and had other interesting features. So they've done some fairly spectacular annual limited editions. Some people criticize it as hokey. I say, well, some of our beloved brands like Omega in particular certainly make their commemorative pieces, their James Bond and their moon watches and whatever. So every brand might have its own thing it uses to stand out and to celebrate and to inject some variety into their timepieces. And this is how Bremont has been doing it. So let's go back to the, again, I got to get my camera reset. Here we go. So just Spruce Goose, and as you can see, that we have number 50 of 300 pieces here in the store available. So this just came in within the past couple of weeks, and pretty nice piece. That movement, by the way, is in collaboration with La Joux Perret, so it's not an in-house movement. And that's a topic that's worth its own discussion. Oh, I want to get me. So Bremont has been criticized for having remarked at one point that they had an in-house movement when in fact they had a bespoke movement fabricated by La Joux Perret in the past, and that has dogged them for a number of years. I have some inside information that they are completing a new plant in Henley by this summer, and at that time they also will be having a in-house movement in at least one of their watches. So people have been hectoring them for a while. Why don't you have your own movement? Well, they've definitely been working on it, and they say that they haven't announced it, but I hear that that will be forthcoming this year. So good for them. And Joel Kaminsky wants to get into the watch industry, and it's a good thing. There's a shortage of good watch people, so there's a number of schools out there, Joel, you might want to look into up in Pennsylvania, out in Seattle, a number around the country, and it's a rigorous program, but you can make a career out of it for sure. So, all right, so that is pretty much what I had to say about Bremont, and let's turn to some other pieces, and let's see what I've got for you. Got to rearrange my deck here a little bit. So just wanted to point out a beautiful, and this is switching gears, back to our Japanese watches, and I have here a Seiko Presage, and it is it's the SPB093, and it's new this year, and it has a porcelain dial, and it's not porcelain on some kind of substrate, it's porcelain through and through, and these are extremely difficult to make, and this is a beautiful example of a porcelain dial at a very affordable price point. So this is something that it costs $1,900 for something that has this exquisite porcelain dial, and I think many of you who are familiar with the higher end watches, you can easily spend 20 grand on a beautiful porcelain dial watch. And so the Presage watches are really stepping out and making some beautiful pieces at affordable prices. So just wanted to point that out and show you the movement, exhibition back. 40.8 millimeters by 14.7. So not the thinnest watch in the world. It's typical of the the Seiko pieces, but certainly carries along the excellence in dial making that they've established. All right, so now I'm going to turn to some Omegas that have come in this month into our store. They may have been earlier elsewhere or later. And we have here the 300 meter professional diver with a black and white, black bezel, white ceramic dial, ceramic bezel as well. So a new colorway for the this year's 300 meter professional diver. And if I get it in the right light, you can see the waves on the dial. Okay, so I have quite a variety in that collection now. And also new is the beautiful, large professional diver chronograph. And this is the two-tone version. And I think you can see the gold bezel on that. And beautiful piece. And it is 45 millimeters by 14.6 thick. It is a bit of a beast, and not for the faint of heart. I still have a sticker on the back, but I want to preserve the original packaging for the eventual owner. And you can see the beautiful coaxial Omega Master coaxial movement on here. So new this year. And of course, it also comes with without the gold. This particular piece weighs in at $12,400. Okay. And finally for Omega, we have this Planet Ocean in orange with an orange NATO strap. And this is 43.5 millimeter by 16.5. Comes in at $6,200. And moving further, still in the Swatch group, but moving over to Longines, we have the Heritage Skin Diver on a very substantial Milanese bracelet, very substantial and quite heavy, I might add. And for those of you who don't care for a date, you have a no date here. And handsome piece, recreation. And this is $2,600 and 42 millimeters in diameter. And you might, just had a little camera outage again. Looks like something's overheating my cameras. There we go. And you might also notice the heritage divers have fairly long lugs, so it's going to require a fairly broad wrist to carry this off, but a very nice piece at the price. Okay, new to the store this month. All right, so I'm getting close to the end of my little show and tell. And let's move over to here to Oris. And Oris has been coming up with some winners in the past year. And here is a beautiful bronze Big Crown pointer date, and it has a brown dial, and I'm reading some places brown is the new blue. I'm not sure if it's quite that, or maybe brown is the new green. But there are a number of nice brown dial pieces out there from different brands, and they've just introduced this one. It works pretty well with the bronze case, I feel. And of course the characteristic red rotor of Aras. So this piece is 40 millimeters by 12.3. And then just to wrap it up, we've got the Oris Movember piece, charity piece, and pretty good looking tonneau-esque, I would say, case, and in the Chronoris line, and very nice contrast with the orange noon marker, midnight marker, and the second hand. And case back, internal rotating bezel, which I won't operate. And this is coming in at 2,000, and it is 40 millimeters also, as was the Big Crown pointer date, and 13.5 millimeters thick. And it is rated at 100 meters, the prior watch 50. So this brings me relatively up to date, and looks like no questions, few comments. So this is going to be it, and we'll try to get back on a more normal schedule starting next week. Of course, we have New Year's coming up in the middle, but a little bit more time to put things together and keep things going. So with that, I'm going to start signing off, get ready for dinner, and appreciate any comments, suggestions for future shows, and thank you for watching. So I'm going to sign off, and have a good evening, and if I don't see you, Happy New Year.